Hey everybody, Nerd Transformed here again. Now I'm finally finishing up the last of my Wave 1 Deluxes from Titan's Return. A little bit behind schedule, aren't I? I mean, Wave 1 came out, what, 15 months ago? Something like that? Jeez. But yeah, I'm finishing up the Wave 1 Deluxes with Titan's Return Deluxe Class Blurr. And honestly, I did not know if I was going to get this figure or not, because honestly I thought if I was going to get this mold, I was going to get the Legends version, but I caved in when I saw it on one of my Transformer fan group sites for only like $8. So I finally caved in and bought it, and I gotta say I'm pretty happy with it. Much happier than I thought it would be. You can see for his vehicle mode, he goes straight on for G1 Blurr. I mean, this is definitely the G1 Blurr vehicle mode. It looks pretty good. I mean, you have everything you expect. You have the nice shape, you have the 3 triangular front, you have the little scope sticking up the back. You have like a nice little cockpit here, which you can take the Titan Master to put in. And the Titan Master is surprisingly well painted. We'll get to that later, but Titan Master is really nicely painted. He's got some black here for his little legs, his little boots. The arms are painted silver, not just like the shoulders, but the actual arms inside the panels is done up in silver. The camera decided to fall over. I'm fixing it now. There we go. Are actually done in silver, and even the face has a little bit of teal for the mouth, around the mouth and nose. And that's really nice. And you also got some paint for the face, you know, but we'll get to that later. Go ahead and pop it open. Go ahead and get him in the sitting position. Or actually, you want him in like the full legs, knees bent sitting position to get him in there, but like that. Pop it back closed. Don't push this all the way down because it won't fit quite right with the Titan Master in there. You only want to like down to the first click. We'll get to what that second click is for later, for robot mode. But you can see, looks pretty well, and I think it kind of works as like a headmaster. I know people don't really like Blurr being a headmaster, much like Scourge, but I think it works really well. And very much like Scourge, he does have the G1 look down very well. It's got a nice little Autobot decal right there. The window does have some like grayish teal around it. There's a much brighter teal going down the front, except for like this one spot, which we'll get to later, which is gimmick. Got the same gray teal as the windows coming down here, and then the front part here has the light teal that the top has here. And that's all the paint that he has on him. And let's go ahead and get out of the way. The elephant in the room, the robot mode has even less paint. This is where all the paint went in vehicle mode. Most of the paint, to be honest, went to the headmaster in the vehicle mode. Which looks nice, but oh god, we'll get to the robot mode in a little bit. A lot of paint also went towards his gun, which is actually painted in silver. You can see from the handle it's actually blue. And the gun does look pretty cool. It definitely looks like a weapon G1 Blurr used. And you can just take it, and there's a little peg hole in the back, and you're actually pegging the gun on, not the other way around. Like that, attached to the front. And now Blurr has his weapon. And for size comparison, we'll go ahead and compare him with his Wave Mate Hardhead. And you can see much leaner, but just like a little bit taller. Yeah, he compresses in. Hardhead like squeezes in a little bit, but also flattens out. Blurr kind of collapses in on himself a lot. It's really kind of cool. It really like kind of just squeezes in everything together, and it's a really cool transformation. I'm a little too lazy to get the generations Blurr down. I do plan on doing another video showing those two directly side by side. But if you know the Generations one, he went for more of a modern version of Blurr's vehicle, while this is straight on G1 Blurr. I wish I could do a Blurr accident. That'd be really cool, just like talking as fast as possible. But this definitely looks like Blurr. This definitely feels like a very fast vehicle. I really like this vehicle mode. Now, his Titan Master does have a gimmick where, let's go ahead and get it out. Blurr does have this gimmick where, like, go ahead and come to the front here, split off the sides, take the front. Oh, there. That's what I saw. The window can collapse in further, but I'll show that more later. Go ahead and make sure you completely pop them off. Bring this down, and it'll slide off. This is the one thing that kind of sucks about Blurr is if you buy a second hand, make sure he has his shield here, because without it, his vehicle mode looks like complete crap. I mean, you're left with this as a vehicle. Granted, I mean, it would help if I had the window clock like that, but still, this does not look nearly as nice. But what you're supposed to do for the gimmick is take this, you notice this little blue tab that was sticking out here, you just go ahead and fold it out, flip around, take the gun, peg it back on, and just take the Titan Master, flatten out his legs, set him in there, and now you have a little attack sled. I don't think it's as bad as other ones I've seen. I think it actually still works better than, say, like Mind Wipes, but yeah, this is still pretty funny. I get they try to work to get the gimmick and teach it to weapons. I'm glad it at least worked into the shield instead of the gun, so that way we can have a normal looking gun. But yeah, this still looks pretty ridiculous. I'm not a fan. But, you know, it's there. It's for kids. If you like those kind of like little side vehicle weapons, I mean, I guess you could give them as a sidecar to Blurr. You know, you could turn his shield into a sidecar. Batman style, you know, if he wants a second Type Master riding with him. You can definitely do it. It's doable. I'm sure as a kid I would probably like it more, but as an adult, yeah, it just, no. This is the one part of the gimmick line that, really doesn't work for me. There we go. Can sometimes be a little bit of pain to get everything pegged back together. There, finally back in vehicle mode. Just to go ahead and transform back into robot mode, but I did want to show how it is, because the shield you do not have to remove. It is technically parts forming if you want as a weapon, but if you don't care about him having as a weapon, you don't have to remove the shield. You can just go on his back and it can stay in the same place it currently is. So that's very nice. But to start the transformation, you're going to come to the little side pieces here. Go ahead and bring them out. They will detach right about here where this little crevice is. It will come out on these struts. Go ahead and bring the struts up, and the hinges will completely collapse in to form his shoulders. And then you're actually going to want to leave them up for now so you have room to work on the legs, because next we're going to do the legs. Come to the underside here, split it down the middle, like so. Go ahead and lift it up and down, flip over. You're going to completely flip it outward. Go ahead and split them, and you're going to want to actually split and fold this in first, then collapse the leg parts back in like how they were, and then fold down the feet. And now give Blurr his legs. And then, okay, go ahead and unpeg the top here and have it just go ahead and fold away to the back. That'll get that out of the way, get his backpack out of the way. You're going to want to lift the windshield up, take the chair that the Blurr Headmaster was sitting in, fold it in first, then collapse this in. And you will hear this time it goes that second click. This is where it is for vehicle, this is where it is for robot mode. Bring the arms on down, you know, you're just flipping them around. Come to the front here, the kibble will fold away to reveal the hands. Yep, we're not having to flip out the hands anymore. Or we're not having to flip out the hands for this toy at least. The hands are just there, we're flipping the pieces away from the hands. It's kind of cool like that, it's a little bit different. Then take the Headmaster, fold it up. And Blurr does have an extra step, just like Scourge, where you're going to take this little scope, just pull it up. Unfortunately, it does not click like his does. It doesn't really have a set place. Maybe I'm just not pulling it far enough, but I've tried pulling on this. I feel like I'm going to break it if I pull it any harder than I am. It doesn't really click in place. It'll certainly sit up, but just touching it will knock it back down. So, just even the slightest touch. So, that does stink, but I do like that the scope does extend out to give him this iconic Blurr look. And there you have Titans Return Blurr in his robot mode. Alright, so before we get to the elephant in the room with this figure, let's start with talking about the transformation. I gotta say, I love this transformation for this figure. He's easily got my favorite transformation out of all of Wave 1 Deluxe. Out of the Wave 1 Deluxes, this is easily my favorite transformation. Actually, out of Wave 1 period, like even with the leader classes and the Voyagers, I gotta say, this is a really, really fun transformation. And it far superior to the Generations Blurr mold, because I like that figure. I did like it a lot before I got this one, and I gotta say this one blows out of the water for me as the mold goes. Like I said, we'll go to the elephant later, but as far as the mold itself goes, this one easily blows the Generation version out of the water. If you're looking for G1, that is. If you're looking for IDW, that one, the Generations one will probably be your preference, but I gotta say I really like this Blurr a lot more. I love how sleek he is. I love how little kibble he has. Like, he has his shield, but that can turn into a weapon. Even if you're still counting as kibble, it's still not that bad. And the fact that it's usable, if you take that away, you just have a little bit on the arms that's fairly noticeable. You have a little on the sides that could be considered detailing, to be honest. And you have this one little piece sticking off. Which, granted, I wish it folded down slightly. I wish these little pieces could rotate pointing down, but even as they are, they're perfectly fine for me. And before we go any further, let's go ahead and do a size comparison with Hardhead again. Here he is next to Hardhead, and you can see he is your typical deluxe size. Ah, look at all that color. Oh. Yep, we're going to head towards the elephant now. I mean, standing next to Hardhead, you just kind of realize just how much color Blurr is missing here. Like, for as nicely painted as the Titan Master was, Blurr himself is missing a lot of color. First off, the color he is, the monotone blue that they did use, just doesn't feel like a Blur color. It's still too dark. It's a little too, the tone's a little too off from blue to be really a Blur color. It's a little too green. It's a little too turquoise, if you know what I mean. It needed to be more of a dark blue. It needed to be more of a dark blue or a really light blue. It's right in the middle, and it doesn't work for either. The light blue he does have on the, as the paint, works really well for him. But yeah, he needs something else. There's even like a slightly darker version of this blue right here on the legs, but you can barely tell because there's just such an ocean of it. But right here on the front panel of the legs, it's actually a slightly darker blue than right here on the feet. You can probably just barely see it with my camera that it's slightly darker here. But I wouldn't blame you if you just thought it was a shadow. The only real paint he has in his robot mode is from the windshield and the face and the slight dark on this blue. And that is it. Granted, he has a little bit here, and if you add the shield, it does help a lot. It's very much the same problem Scourge had, Teen Titans Return Scourge had, where he's monotone, but Scourge at least works just because it was a color that represents Scourge. You can just add stickers or something. Here, Blur, it just doesn't feel like Blur's colors. It feels weird. It looks... I believe this is actually an accurate color to his original G1 toy, who was also kind of a weird tealish green. But turning the whole toy like that with no paint to help break it up really hurts the figure for a lot of people. It doesn't for me because I like the vehicle mode a lot. I love the transformation. I gotta say, the mold of the robot mode is really nice. This is a very excellent Blur molding. Paint, I feel like I can fix, and even the color they did choose would have been fine if they just add more stickers or paint apps. If they just put some like paint on his arms, a little bit on his legs here, like a much brighter color, a little bit more for the face, just enough to break all this up. Maybe paint right here on the codpiece a little bit. Just enough to break all this up, even if it was a darker color like black or dark blue. A noticeably darker blue than what this is. It would have salvaged this figure for so many people. A lot of people, this is their least favorite Wave 1 figure just because of how he looks. For me, he is my favorite out of all Wave 1 because I gotta say, if you can ignore the paint taps, he's an amazing figure in all three things you want of a Transformer. He has just an absolutely beautiful vehicle mode and a beautiful robot mode. The transformation just is so much fun. It's everything that Combined Wars and Generations has been leading up to. I know I've spent a good like 2 minutes just talking about the paint thing, or 3 minutes or whatever, but it is a major issue for a lot of people. I do acknowledge it as an issue. That is the one big issue I have with this figure, is the paint job. I gotta say, if you cannot stand it, go for the Legends version. I personally do not want to pay an extra $30 to $40 just to have a better paint scheme when I can probably just get some repro labels and do a little bit of paint work myself. So I'd recommend either be okay with the colors, get the Legends version, or be handy with a paintbrush. One of those three will be your solution to this, because honestly, get some version of this figure. Or go for Brainstorm. If you're happy with your Blur, but you do still want to experience this mold, get the Brainstorm, because this mold is just nice. But we'll get to the mold itself. You can see, detail-wise, he's got nice little details. He's got some little venting effects on his legs. You know, he got the little tiny screw details on around the hips. Right here, actually, on the back of the chair, you can see like some kind of circuitry detail. The arms, not quite as much, but they do have like this armored like second layer look to them, which is pretty nice. I like that he actually has the engine pieces, even though they're fake ones. These are not the actual back of the engines, since these were, and these were kind of intersected into there. But I kind of like they were able to bring them up here using that by having like fake ones. And I like the detail in the head and the fact that he still has the scope. I wish the scope stayed up. That is actually my favorite problem with this figure, is that I wish the scope stayed up. But what can you do? And as I've already shown, you can either leave this on the back from transformation, or you can peg it to the side. You can also put it in his hand too, but I like to peg it to the side so that way it looks more like a arm shield that he can kind of just... it does limit his articulation quite a bit. Swivel becomes difficult, and it can, if it's put in far enough, it can limit his elbow since he can't bend it, but it is still workable. And of course, he can also hold his gun. I wish some of that silver made onto this figure. Honestly, if they had just put a little bit of silver, like some streaks down his legs, a little bit on here, a streak of it on up his shoulder here, a little bit on the face, it would have helped a lot. And look at that face sculpt, it is nice. I'm not sure if his eyes are painted or not. I can't tell. That might just be the plastic color with the face paint around it. No, that's like a lighter blue, so I think his eyes are actually painted, so that's pretty nice. And as far as articulation goes, it is also really good, you know. Got the head swivel, got a little bit up and down from the Titan Master attachment. You do get full rotation at the shoulder. It does go outward. It bumps into his head a little bit, but you can get enough that, you know, if you just turn his head, it's not as awkward. Or just don't go that high. If you just stop about there, you can still get some pretty good outward. The arm still has a swivel, which is pretty good. 90-degree elbows. And the hands, which is what's fantastic, actually swivel. We don't even get Voyagers or even Leaders that can swivel his hands. Soundwave and Blaster can't swivel their hands. Blurr can. Blurr and Hardhead can swivel their hands, and this is just absolutely wonderful. Blurr has a waist swivel, giving him a point over Hardhead, because even Hardhead couldn't get a waist swivel. You do get ball-jointed legs. The hips can go forward and outward and all the good stuff. You do get a swivel, and you do get a knee joint, and you do get a little bit of feet movement, because you can, while it is due to transformation, you can use the feet hinge just enough. You can get kind of a, as long as you're not centering his weight on it, you can have him use it. You kind of make like a stoping motion or a staggered motion. You can easily make him look like he just got shot in the knee or something. Arrow to the knee, make the Skyrim reference, woo. But yeah, I honestly don't get a lot of the hate for... Well, I do understand a lot of the hate for this figure. Like I said, if the color thing... I thought the color thing was going to bug me more, but now that I've had the mold in person, I love it. I absolutely love it. I do understand the issues. I honestly do. I do get the issues, but everything else that this figure does... Since this figure does literally almost everything else fantastically, I can let go of it. I understand if you can. If you cannot, that is understandable. It is a very glaring issue with this figure. But paint is something I can always work around by learning how to paint myself or just getting some really nice stickers from Toy Hacks or something. So, I don't feel like it's an absolute detriment to this figure. And like I said, if the paint does bug you, go for the Legends version. It'll solve everything and you still get the awesome figure. You just have to pay about 5 times more for it. That, and you can find Titans Return Blurr for dirt cheap compared to the rest of the figures from Titans Return. You can find them for $8 to $10 on eBay most of the time. But yeah, I mean, amazing, really nice vehicle mode, really nice robot mode if you ignore the paint. The articulation's outstanding for a Deluxe, or any figure really from Hasbro. The articulation's outstanding. The transformation's just fun. That's the number one thing for me with this figure. He's just fun. And that's something I cannot say a lot about a lot of figures recently. So, this has been Very Transformed. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.